Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. It's unheard of in this part of the world. But I guess it makes sense, it's the way the Japanese do it. Japan is an honor-based society, and so I guess when people turn on you, the politicians actually do what is unthinkable in the West. They take the L and resign in disgrace. Imagine that. Instead of having these clowns that cling on to power endlessly, no matter how badly they fail, no matter how many people's lives they ruin, Japan seems to still have leaders who know when the curtain's closed. And honestly, I think it's a cultural phenomenon that we ought to export to the West. Lord knows our political class could use it. It seems like respect for the office, respect for constituents and voters, basic dignity is a thing of the past, but not so much in Japan, as their new woke leftist prime minister just resigned in disgrace following mass protests on the street. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on as Japan goes full-on MAGA. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so we covered this a few days ago, how a new political party named Japanese First was rising, and this was in response to Japan's new prime minister floating a plan to increase immigration, not just from neighboring Asian countries, but to actually open the door to mass migration from Africa and the Middle East. And while the people weren't having it, outrage broke immediately, protests on the streets, citizens openly calling for the prime minister to resign.
The prime minister, Ishiba! You are the traitor! You are the cancer in Japan! Abolish consuming tax just right now! Get out of Japan just right now! Ishiba, yamero!
いい人もいると言います。でも同じ日本の土地と同じ一つの屋根で暮らせるかというと無理です。もうダメですよ。無理なんですよ。もう文化が違うし、考えの根底が元から狂ってる。日本で共存できるわけねえ。税金を納めたい。でも税金の使い方がこのように日本人に何一つ利益のないことに使われてるのが本当に怒りに召しております私。こんなの来たくねえんだよこっちはよ。
And here's the most shocking part to us living in the West. Not even a week later, like clockwork, he's gone. Japan's prime minister has officially resigned.
And the thoughts of the people and the thoughts of the party, it's about how we think about the gap between the two. We always need to think about this. And I would not deny that there were various views on this. However, if the government is not functioning, this is not something that should happen for the benefit of the people, and that's why I decided to do this.
And I guess this is what makes Japan so unique, but also how incredibly based. I mean, just the political efficiency of it all. And now, of course, the leftist reaction is going to be, wow, what a bunch of racists, right? Oh, the Japanese, they're so racist. But that isn't the case at all here. There's simply just a national consensus there that Japan is for the Japanese. That's not racism, that's not xenophobia. I think actually it's the basic principle of sovereignty. A nation has a right to defend itself, to defend its identity, its customs, its traditions. Economic growth does not have to come at the expense of who you are as a people. But in the West, obviously, we've lost that notion. We have politicians who will sell out the country, sell out their own people just to keep the GDP chart going upward. Green line, go up, even if that means destroying the very fabric of your country. And honestly, I think it's typical fear-mongering. Everybody's always going on and on as if mass migration is a non-negotiable. You have to do it, otherwise you'll face full-on collapse. But that isn't the case at all. It's not like Japan is some collapsing starving third world nation. No, quite to the contrary. If you've been, it's actually pretty damn affordable there. Food is cheap. Housing outside of central Tokyo is pretty affordable. Japan produces most of its goods domestically. They have, let's call it an isolated economy. They export a lot, import very little. They're self-sufficient. But sure, they're not generating the same flashy growth numbers that they did a decade ago when they were leading tech, but it's not some existential economic crisis. Yet we get this endless propaganda that says that growth must go up at all costs, or you face the death of your nation. And the only solution is to import millions of people from cultures that have nothing in common with your own. And I think that's why the outrage was so intense in this case. Not because Japan hasn't accepted migrants before, they have. They've opened their doors to immigrants from neighboring Asian countries. There's a sizable Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, Thai, Malaysian presence there. And you know what? That makes sense because these are cultures that can reasonably assimilate into Japanese society. But other parts of the world, not exactly. Places across the world with no cultural or historical ties to Japan, that's clearly where people are drawing the line. And I think they're right to do so. We in the West know exactly how this ends. It ends in endless cultural clash, failed assimilation, and even open on-the-street hostility. Look at Europe. Look at America, where the people we import are literally marching in the streets, chanting about how much they hate America and hate the West. We hear, quote, "Death to America." Well, Japan wants no part in that, and I don't blame them. And here's another point. Mass migration isn't the only way to solve a population decline. Right now the time is probably to take a step back and analyze where things are going before you make this massive, irreversible change to your nation. We're in the middle of a new industrial revolution when it comes to robotics, automation, and AI. The need for endless low-skilled labor is going to vanish. The smarter move isn't to flood your nation with people who will undermine your identity, but rather to build the future with technology, or even more importantly, maybe incentivize family and birth rates. Maybe the problem in Japan is the insane work culture and not the lack of immigrants. I think there's potential real solutions here that aren't importing half the world into your nation under the false premise of growth. I think Japan got it right and they got it quick. Again, speaking to that political expediency, the people stood up, the prime minister pushed this globalist plan, and the people rejected it outright. And wow, what a beautiful outcome. Instead of clinging to power like the corrupt parasites we have in the West, the prime minister actually took the L and resigned. That right there is what accountability looks like. That's frankly what I think sovereignty is supposed to look like. And at the end of the day, it's exactly like I keep reading from so many Japanese online who have been signaling their frustration in this particular matter. They keep saying the same thing. Japan is for the Japanese. I think that's absolutely right. Every nation has the right to preserve its history, its identity, its culture, regardless of how it was founded. And I think every nation has the right to choose its people, to choose very carefully and meticulously what kind of immigrants they want to bring in based on a benefit analysis. Frankly, anything else, as I stated in the previous video, is national seppuku. And well, the Japanese people are showing us exactly how to avoid that. A very interesting, heartwarming, and frankly inspiring story from across the globe. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.